Hey folks, welcome to this Friday afternoon live stream about, it's basically a live stream update / discussion about the gun owners SA versus Minister of Police in the Supreme Court of Appeals today. And everything I'm about to say from a legal point of view, bear in mind, okay, I'm not legally trained, I'm not legally qualified. Everything I say is as a complete unqualified layperson. So it's just my opinion. None of this is, in fact, academically qualified in any way, shape, or form. So with that disclaimer out the way, let's dive straight into it. So what happened is outcome. Judgment has been reserved. The legal team in GOSA will still have an official statement out about it. And to be brutally honest, did we get a bit of a hostile reception from the entire panel of judges today? I'd say that's a fair observation. We most certainly got a very hostile reception. Was our counsel up to the task? Absolutely. Gerrit van Rijn is one of our top guys. The people behind the drafting of the papers, days of argument, are all top people. And we must not forget that Gerrit was a guy who got us the original interdict in the first place. Of course, one can argue all the technical points of how unnatural it is to hear a case like this over effectively a Zoom meeting. Now, it was never going to be a walk in the park or a cakewalk to take a case like this to what is effectively the highest court in the land. The Constitutional Court is higher, but that's for constitutional arguments, constitutional matters. For a conventional case like this, usually the buck stops at the SCA. And I think from a competence point of view, we did the best we could. I think a lot of people in the live stream criticized Gerrit's way of delivery. We must not forget that this is not a public speaking contest. The court doesn't take into account how well you speak. It's about the merits of the argument. Now, do we have concrete merits? Yes, we do. Unfortunately, so does the opposition, in the sense that we argued, due to human fallibility and other factors, the law as it's being applied is prejudicing people to the point where we're criminalizing them for just, failing to perform an administrative process. It's like criminalizing people for failure to renew their driver's licenses or their car's licenses. So there is nuance to it. The Police's Council argued, or the Minister of Police's Council argued, that the law is written as it stands. It's a bad law, but the law is the law, and the people who did not renew aren't complying with the law. So there is most certainly a conflict there. Bear in mind a couple of things about the interdict. The interdict is a temporary solution. It was never meant to become permanent. That's what the main case is for. And the main case isn't on the roll. It still needs to be placed on the roll. There's still considerable time frame that has to happen before you even get to that stage of it. So the interdict was to plug a hole. It plugged a hole for 2 years, and it may very well continue plugging that hole, because there's only one of three outcomes that can happen. First one is the court goes completely against us and throws the interdict out. Then we're going to have to figure out how to deal with that. Second one, it goes completely for us, throws the COPS's case out, and the interdict stands as is written. Or third one, which is not unlikely, and which is how a lot of the cases goes, there's some sort of middle ground where everyone's equally unhappy about the outcome. Either way, we won't know until the judgment's actually given, and it's impossible to really make any concrete calls of just, how it went. It was going to be rough. Let's be honest, gun ownership, we don't have, still to this day, very good optics when it comes to a more liberal interpretation of it. We are still seen, in spite of all evidence to the contrary, we're still seen as, a bit more right-wing, elderly, white males versus the very much more diverse society we actually are. And if we're gonna fight this thing on optics only, it's gonna be a hard battle. If we're gonna fight it on merits, a whole nother story. So that's basically, from a layperson's view, how I think it went. Now, there's a couple of things to touch on with this. Is, firstly and foremost, and very importantly, thank you very, very much to every single person that donated anything towards making this happen. Thank you to the people actually donating money, time, whatever else they could afford and can't afford in many cases to making this a reality, because without the donations, there would be no interdict, firstly, to defend, and secondly, there would be no defense of it. Now, regardless of the outcome, the fight doesn't stop here, and surrender is not an option. The only real long-term solution to this is the fact that the law needs to be changed. The entire concept of renewals need to be discarded because they don't make any sense. And that is a battle that you can't really win in a courthouse. That's a battle that you need to win on two spheres. One, the sphere of public opinion, which is where you guys come in. In fact, you come in on both. The second one is the sphere of politics. So public opinion, you do by being visible and vocal and arguing rationally all the time about it. Politics sphere, pretty much the same gig, except you're arguing towards a smaller audience. You need to convince parliamentarians, MPs, politicians that they really should amend the law in a rational way because it's in their best interest, i.e. votes, to do so. Major problem with this thing is, and this is not a blame the victim type rant, but our community is unfortunately not very good at this. We're not very active. We're not very proactive. It takes a bit of time and effort to sit down, formulate your thoughts in a rational way, write them down, and send them off to the press or a politician or wherever and make them heard. It takes time, effort, commitment. It requires you to educate yourself about, the more, nuanced, technical sort of parts of your rights and privileges, which is primarily one of the reasons Paratus kind of sprung into existence and why groups and organizations like Motivus exists and why GOSA has a Facebook page, is to put this sort of information in the public domain, and that it's easily navigable and easily obtainable by people who are interested in standing up for themselves and fighting for their rights and privileges. Unfortunately, as is the case, we are a bit of a magpie community in the sense of we're much more interested in talking about gear and guns and bling stuff as we are, really interested in talking about rights and privileges and fighting for them. And that is, unfortunately, what has bitten us in the arse over all these years, is we just haven't transitioned into being really, really active and proactive in the public space and in the political space and doing the advocacy and lobbying that we really should be doing. And that's where the majority of our energy always should have gone, and in fact should be going right now, is to be that visible, get in people's faces without, necessarily being rude or overly confrontational, but get in people's face about why your rights matter. People go, oh, okay, yeah, you're a gun nut. I'm like, no, I'm a freedom nut. My gun is merely a physical, or rather the guns I own are just physical manifestations and representations of the concept of freedom, of my right to life, of the single most important aspect to me of living and existing is to be free. The gun protects it, or rather my firearms protect that right. They visually represent that right, and they are the last line of defense of that right being taken away from me. So it's not just about the guns. It's not about, physically, handling them, shooting them, whatever. That's not what it's about for me. The firearms are a symbolic representation of a much larger concept. And possibly that's also why I get a little bit annoyed at people failing to renew their licenses. Look, firstly, I get it. The law is stupid. It's irrational. And it's highly discriminatory. And it's a bad law. There's no other way of putting it. Like, the entire concept of renewing a firearm license is bad. It's stupid. It's nonsensical. But as gun owners, we are aware there's an agenda at play to disarm us as civilians. It's nothing new. It's been ongoing for decades. There's a hell of a lot of literature about it. There are videos, there are podcasts about it. It's not a new thing. So why are we going to give government a gap at taking our guns from us in the first place when we know they are out to make sure we can't get them? I mean, I own about 9 licensed firearms. Not that I own any unlicensed one, but I mean, for the sake of my argument, I have 9 licenses I have to keep track of. I haven't failed so far in renewing one. I know there are legit reasons for people failing to renew. I'm not attacking you. Okay, they are. In essence, a whole bunch of us put our time, money, and effort towards protecting the rights and privileges of people who failed at an admin process. I get it. They failed at admin process. That's no reason for them to be vilified, criminalized, or otherwise have their property confiscated. But this is something that's important, and that's a ball that we can't afford to drop. It's a requirement that needs to be changed, and it's something that I have to fight hard and very visibly and very loudly. But dropping the ball on the firearm license it's one of those things. You can drop the ball on a lot of other stuff in life, but with this type of political environment we're in, we really can't. And unfortunately, it's a reality. We're probably close to 500,000, if not 1 million people did drop the ball on it. Those types of numbers alone should indicate that the problem is far bigger and more serious than, arguing about the law is the law. And that proves in itself that the law is a bad, terrible, horrible law, and it should be changed. The only way this law is ever going to get changed is if we all 3 million of us or more, get in people's faces, get in the media, and start making our voices heard. GOSA can do a lot. Okay, it's a big organization, but it's entirely reliant on what its members can contribute, either time-wise, money-wise, or otherwise. And as is usually the case, it's only a small minority of the total iceberg of members that really do stuff. And this is not like exclusive to GOSA. It's every single other organization and any other sphere of civil rights out there. It's the same thing. So the question is not really anymore about what can our organizations do for us. It's about how we can do something for ourselves. And it's the same thing I've been saying for years, is formulate an argument, get your argument out into the public space. If you struggle with it, I will help you as much as I can. If you need help to get your argument out there, if you need assistance in doing it, I'm probably going to have a chat to Rob Hutchinson of Dear South Africa over the weekend, and we're going to see what we can come up with GOSA, Paratus, Dear SA, in order to get not a petition per se, but get a process going to get the law changed. Because even if we succeed, well, I'm fairly confident we will succeed in the main application, and if we manage to keep this interdict going, these things are just temporary. We still need to change stuff politically. There's no point in going to court all the time when, Parliament can just write another bad law, and they can come the day after tomorrow and then write an amendment to the bad law, making it worse. You need to go to the source on this one, which is something we have been doing and we've had reasonable success with. But also one mustn't forget that, bear in mind, you're dealing with a mindset that is pro-civilian disarmament. And the only way you can change that mindset is to go face-to-face and head-to-head with these people and prove to them that it's going to hit them in their voting base. It's going to hurt them politically to do it. And we are now in a position to succeed in that. Our demographics are exactly where they need to be. Okay, we've got the right optics for this. We've got the right amount of skills, talent. I hope we have the right amount of passion for it, because that's really where the solution is to become angry, get involved, get energetic. Like sitting on your bum and feeling defeatist about things isn't going to help either. And expecting to solve this problem like solely through litigation is also not going to achieve the outcome that we want. And I've been rambling in circles about the same thing in the hope that the part of active citizenship, being actively involved in the protection and expansion of your own rights and privileges, that's really the engine that drives this thing forward. So that's my limited kind of take on what's happened today. Really not much to say, judgment is reserved. Can go in any of three directions at this point. Was it possible for the cops to get kicked out without condemnation? Yeah, very much so. In the realm of possibilities. In the realm of probabilities, nah, wasn't going to happen. Not with a case of this nature, not with this type of argument. So unfortunately, that wasn't really in the realm of possibilities. So guys, thanks for tuning in. This is really just a quick check-in. Obviously, more information is going to be forthcoming. So that's what I'll do is I'll try and get more info to you as it carries on. But for now, I think have a good weekend. We will keep an eye on this. The fight is never going to be over. Regardless of what happens today, the fight wasn't going to be over. It was very much going to carry on. And I do think we need to put our focus back on politics and away from litigation anyway, or at least put more focus on politics. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for always listening to my talk crap. Get in the public space, get in people's faces. Again, if you need help getting your stuff published, let me know, and I will help you get it published. And ja, lekker naweek vir julle almal. And see you soon. We'll do another live stream.